Hello, and welcome to Profiles and Issues, our new talk show that offers in-depth interviews with prominent people in the news from the world of politics and entertainment in Westchester County. Join us each month on Cablevision, Channel 75, Verizon Fios, Channel 34, or on your computer or iPhone on youtube.com and www.greenbergny.com. Go to the left-hand green side of the website page and press Public Access TV on demand to view the broadcast right away. We want to make the program interactive with you, the audience, so please email us at profile.issue@yahoo.com. Let us know your opinion about the program and the issues presented. Our topic for this broadcast, the Edgemont petition for incorporation to a village form of government. How will this petition, if approved, affect the residents of Edgemont, as well as the rest of Greenberg? Joining me to discuss this critical issue is my special guest, the town supervisor of Greenberg, Paul Feiner. Paul, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's get right to it because I know there are a lot of issues that you've had to handle with regard to this. Is the petition that you received valid, and will you approve it?
Okay, well, by law, I have to schedule a public hearing. And the public hearing is going to be held on April 5th between 7:30 p.m. and whenever it's over at Anthony Veteran Park, the Multipurpose Center. And the state law requires me to ask anyone in the town if they object to the petition. I haven't received objections as of today. That's why we're having the public hearing. Which is a requirement of the law. So after we hold the hearing and we evaluate whether or not there's objections and study whether the objections are legitimate, then we would decide whether or not the petition goes forward and there's a referendum. But it's too early right now. It's way too early because I haven't heard any objections as of today, and I don't know if they met or did not meet the legal thresholds.
Right. So at this point, there's no legal action. Have you heard of any citizen groups that might be planning any legal action to a date to stop the incorporation process? I
haven't heard of any legal actions, as of today. Again, the state law is very, very specific. You can't have a legal action against an incorporation petition just because you don't like the idea of incorporation. You have to, if there is a successful challenge it on the basis of law. So the boundaries of the district have to, be in compliance.
I was going to ask you that. Our next question. I noticed that when I attended the meeting in Hartsdale, there were a number of people from Edgemont who, for the first time, heard about this, who didn't really know what's going on. And I'm sure the rest of the town isn't sure either what their role is or what's going on. So could you describe the steps in the process of incorporation that the Edgemont residents must take?
Well, first they have to get 20% or more of the people who are eligible to vote to sign a petition, and that's step one. Then I have to legally hold a hearing, and the hearing was set for April 5th. And there's a very short window that the state provides. You get the petitions when you have to certify it. Then, if I think I have like 5 or 10 days to decide whether or not it qualifies, and if I say it qualifies, a referendum would be held within 40 days. So a referendum could be held by the end of June. If it doesn't qualify, it would go to court, and then a judge would decide. And if a judge rules one way or the other, there could be appeals all the way up to the Court of Appeals. So if there is a successful, let's say I find that the petition did not meet the legal, requirements, then it could drag on for a number of months. But on the other hand, if there's a referendum, if I find that the petition met the criteria, then there'd be a referendum in June, and then I believe they would have a village, by next year.
Now, can the residents of Greenburgh do anything about this, or are they just bystanders in the process?
That's like an excellent, question. Now I know why you're the interviewer and have the program rather than me, because you come up with good questions. But basically, residents of Edgemont by law can vote. Residents of Hartsdale are impacted by, and the rest of unincorporated Greenburgh are impacted by incorporation, but they can't vote. The town, according to members of the Civic Association in Hartsdale that sponsored the meeting, we could lose $17.5 million a year. That's a lot of money. So a lot of services in unincorporated Greenburgh would either be cut, or there'd be a very, very big tax hike, which is unaffordable for many people. So it's really unfair that residents of communities that would be impacted by incorporation have no say. And I think the state law should be
Further
changed.
down in our discussion, when we shift back to the Greenburgh residents, I want to ask you about that transition, but I want to stick to right now the Hartsdale Neighbors Association. They estimate that the average resident of Edgemont pays 16% of their tax bill to Greenburgh, and they say this accounts for 26% of Greenburgh's budget. If you were now speaking at a meeting of Edgemont residents, what case would you present to them to convince them to remain as a hamlet in the town of Greenburgh?
Well, I feel that this incorporation is a lose, lose, lose. It's a lose for everybody.
You want to clarify that?
Because people in unincorporated Greenburgh are going to see significant declines in service, and people in or higher taxes, because if you lose $17.5 million, something's going to go. On the other hand, people in Edgemont are also losing a tremendous amount. Their taxes are, without question, going to go up, and their services are going to go, go down. Let's say the Greenburgh police, let's say they have their own police department, which they could do. They're not going to have as large a police force as the Greenburgh, police department. And let's say there's a hurricane, trees are down on 3 or 4 streets because there's a lot of trees in Edgemont. They will not be able to patrol the streets and also address emergency situations because they won't have the resources. Their public works department will be much smaller. So if there's hurricanes or power outages, and we had I think 3 power outages in Edgemont in the past 6 months, 3 or 4. They don't have the resources to handle it because of a much smaller department. Right now, I could shift people from all over the town to Edgemont if there's a problem. Edgemont, I think crime would probably go up. It's interesting because our police department, we have a large police department of about 115 officers, and burglaries in Edgemont burglaries in Greenburgh, the whole town of Greenburgh, are less than burglaries in the village of Scarsdale. I think the police chief said last year, townwide, including Fairview, Hartsdale, East Irvington, Hastings, Edgemont, we have 35 burglaries. The village of Scarsdale, a much smaller community, had 50 burglaries. Now, we have a lot of programs, street crimes, a great detective division. If they have a smaller police force, they're not going to be able to. We'll have to cut back some of our units. They won't have the same staffing, so that's a problem. And again, when you're looking at Edgemont, Edgemont is near it includes Central Avenue. It includes it's close to the Bronx River Parkway. It's close to the Sprain Parkway. So it's there's affluent sections of Edgemont. So because of its proximity to highways, it's easy for a criminal to quickly do their burglaries and then get out. So I sort of feel that that's a big risk. They want to privatize the sanitation, which means that some of our sanitation people will lose their jobs. If they privatize, they may get a low bid the first year, may be able to save some money on that, but they're gonna actually lose in the long run because after a year or two, the company is going to land up jacking up the prices. I could go on.
Yeah, let me just. You're touching on a lot of good points. I just want to keep it on the same keel. Here's where we're reaching some gray areas that I guess the residents of Edgemont are going to have to make a choice whether to believe you, or I'm sure you heard of it. I'm sure you heard of a gentleman, Jeff Sherwin,
right,
who's a proponent of incorporation and a leader on the Edgemont Community Council. Before I had read my scheduled question, when I was doing research for the show, there is an Edgemont. His community council put up a website, Edgemont Community Council, and they hired a consulting firm. And he states on that website that they find that they will have the money to make the transition. But I would assume, you're the expert on government, I'm not. When you have a transition, you have to have, like you said, you have to have a brand new police force. Yeah, if you're going to have a mayor and then a village manager, form of government, trustees, build the building, I guess. I mean, all of this is a tremendous amount of outlay. The first 3 years, is he talking about a gradual transition, a total transition, or you're not sure?
Well, first of all, when you talk about the consultant company that they hired,
right.
The company is out of state, and I think if I was Jeff Sherwin and people from the Edgemont Community Council, I'd ask for my money back because they got a defective report. The consultant that they hired to analyze whether or not incorporation makes sense never bothered to contact one department head in the town of Greenburgh. How could you do a report talking about incorporation and the benefits to the community if they don't reach out to town officials and at least ask questions or check the numbers? That community, the consultants they hired, they don't know Greenburgh, and I don't think that they even are familiar with Westchester. So I think that the company did a lousy report. What's the salary of a village manager going to be? I get $149,000. The fire chief in Edgemont gets more than in the 200s, probably in the mid 200s. The school superintendent, one time they were paying a school superintendent over $300,000 in Edgemont a year. So are they going to pay a village administrator my salary, or are they going to be paying a village administrator minimum of what the fire chief makes? They really haven't outlined salaries. Where is the village hall going to be? Are they going to buy a village hall? How much are they going to? How many millions of dollars are they going to have to spend, on that? Are they going to have a court, a town court? Are they going to have a jail? Where is the jail going to be? So I sort of feel that there's a lot of unanswered questions when you look at sanitation, public works. We pick up refrigerators. We have crews that are cleaning debris off shoulders of roads. Will they have the resources to do those little extra things? Yesterday, somebody called me hysterical. There was a dead cat in front of her house. She called me. I had the Public Works department pick it up, which so it's like so it's like little quality of life things. We built a sidewalk. We're spending maybe $1 million a year on sidewalks. We did 2 major sidewalks last year. Just finished actually about a week ago. One on Fort Hill Road from Ardsley Road heading towards Jackson. Another on Sealy Place. Right now, if you have a sidewalk that is being built in Edgemont, is paid for by the entire town. $1 million to a small village for a new sidewalk would be prohibitive because it's only being paid for by them rather than the whole town. That's another thing. The federal lawsuits. The housing lawsuit, which you're probably I know you're aware of. Greenberg was exempt from having to comply with the federal housing because we have housing all over. After, not when Trump is president, but after he leaves and there's a more progressive liberal president, there's a great possibility that the federal courts will do what they did when Andy Spano was county executive and say that every community has to have a certain amount of low-income housing. Edgemont has none, but basically because they're part of the town, they're benefiting from being part of the town.
All right, well here's where I want to cut in because you hit a very interesting point. I get the feeling that the Edgemont Community Council has a vision for its town that they want to become another Scarsdale. But if I understand you properly, what you just stated is that there are certain mandates that all municipalities must have. But when he presents his view of it, he doesn't really emphasize that. He emphasizes, and I quote from a January 9th, 2017 minutes of their council meeting, and in an email sent by you offering him a seat on the town planning board, he stated the following, and I quote, okay, Edgemont, I quote, has limited political influence over its daily and future affairs because Greenberg makes zoning and planning decisions that affects its quality of life, school enrollment, taxes, and property values. It has no representatives on the town board and represents only 8% of the town's voting population. How do you respond to this?
Okay, well, we have representation on the zoning board from Edgemont. We have 2 members on the planning board, which is the major land use board. And I offered Mr. Sherwin a seat on the board, which he denied. So they would have had 3 members, on the planning board. We've had in the past, at times, Edgemont representation on the town board. Les Adler, a former councilman, served 17 years, is a resident of Edgemont. And he ran for office and got elected. Eddie Mae Barnes lived in Edgemont, was on the Greenberg Town Board for many years.
That's one of his other arguments.
Anybody could run.
That he contests that since Eddie Mae Barnes, they have not been able to get, because they only represent 8%.
Nobody's tried. The only one who's tried running has been Bob Bernstein. He ran against me and he lost. But he lost because most people around the town were not happy with his recommendations and proposals. He's for the past 15, 20 years been trying to tear the town apart rather than to bring us together. And I think people, don't like that.
I may be stepping over, but I want to, I got the feeling, and I could be wrong, but I got the feeling that, again, they want to create an exclusive town, and they feel that The rest of Greenberg isn't in the vision that they want. And when I say they, I don't mean all the Edgemont residents, just the community council.
The people who basically organize a petition. But I think people have to also realize that, let's say somebody's paying $100 a year in taxes. $84 of that is not going to change if they basically incorporate. Actually, $86 because only 16% of everybody's tax dollar goes to the town, for the town of Greenberg. If they become a village, we keep 2% of the 16%. So the maximum amount, so you're talking about 14%. That's all that you're talking about out of $100. Now, if they have no police, no sanitation, let's say they say, okay, everybody, you have to hire your own security guards, which they'll never do. You have to figure out a place to dump your own garbage, which they're not going to do. If it snows, we're going to have zero snow removal on our streets. The most they could save with zero services is 14%, which is nothing.
How about one Edgemont resident told me confidentially, and we don't mention names like that in those situations. Like, for instance, we have a beautiful pool and recreational
They won't have that.
And he says, well, we don't need it because I belong to a private beach club.
Well, on the other hand, their kids may use the Edgemont camp, and they're not going to have access to the Edgemont camp anymore because of the Feiner law. They're a village, so they'll have no access to the Greenberg pool. I think what people have to look at is the fact that it's probably going to cost them a lot more, just creating another level of government. When there's been communities around the state that have incorporated, and now they're unincorporating because it doesn't work. The New York Times did an article just a few months ago about a community in Long Island that became a village, and now they decided that it didn't work out. So people have to realize their taxes are going to go up and their services are going to go down. What they will gain is they'll be able to say they're Edgemont, New York. So it's sort of a nationalism, type of thing. It makes them feel more elitist. But the other thing they'll be able to gain is total control over their zoning. But my personal feeling is, at the end of the day, a village of Edgemont and the town of Greenberg probably would make pretty close to the same decisions. In fact, I actually think that if they become a village, there would be more development than if they don't, because right now they show a lot of people in Edgemont, whenever there's a proposal, they're always against everything. But when they have a tax base, they won't be.
They want to, they're very proud of their school system.
The school system is great.
I understand a couple of years it was voted #1 over Scarsdale, etc. But they also, as a result, want to keep their school enrollment low. And I understand why you wanted, the Central Avenue part has a lot of commercial activity, and that's where your tax revenue is. And they're concerned about the fact that if you have more population around that area, that it may affect the school system.
We haven't taken any action to increase the number of apartments on Central Avenue. The last apartment that was approved was probably 20 years ago in back of Venetian Delight. So there's been no effort by the town to hurt the school district. In fact,
I'm going to have to move you along because we're short on time. A couple of other things. He says real estate and zoning decisions should be made only by Edgemont because their residents understand the needs. And one of the things he's against is spot zoning, because at times it's at odds with the town's master plan. How do you respond to that?
That's why we have made an effort to reach out to people in Edgemont and have them on our zoning and planning boards. We want to be responsive to Edgemont concerns.
So
I don't believe that.
Are you talking now to any residents of Edgemont besides this community council to get them more involved in the town?
We're going to be having a meeting in the community on March 29th.
Go ahead,
and
say it in front of the camera.
We're trying to reach out to residents and invite them to be part of our decision-making process. It's going to be almost like a course on the 29th from 7 to 8:30 at the Greenberg Library. And the goal is to say, if you want to get involved, we want you to get involved. We want to appoint you to committees. And we have a lot of Edgemont people on different committees. Madeline O'Shea, who is the former head of the Edgemont Community Council, is the head of our historic landmark committee. She was a member of the comprehensive plan committee.
Just what's that date again?
April 29th. March 29th. I'm sorry.
March 29th. And where is it again?
Greenberg Library at 7:30.
Okay, next. Decline in infrastructure. He complains that Edgemont needs new sidewalks. 30 seconds.
We have been building more sidewalks. We built 2 major sidewalks in Edgemont last year. We're going to be building more every year.
All right. He also tries to say that rise in taxes due to reassessment from the town of Greenberg from 24 to 26% for the same level of town service. And he's implying that if they switch to a village manager, that they would get more for their money.
Well, first of all, the reassessment was originally proposed by the Edgemont Community Council.
Okay.
And they basically proposed it, and once they got the results, now they want to, break away. I think you're getting great value for your dollar. We're 1% of the communities in the United States that has a AAA bond rating, the highest rating possible from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and it went up 3 times since I've been town supervisor. I think they're getting a lot of value. They get almost instantaneous responses every time they have complaints. If they call me at 11 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, or email me, they usually get a response in 5 minutes.
Okay. And just quickly, about 30 seconds, just sum up the effects of this incorporation on the rest of the residents of Greenberg.
Well, it's obviously going to be very negative for the rest of unincorporated Greenberg. We're forming a task force that's going to come up with contingency plans. But for people who live in Edgemont, it's risk. Very, very risky. They're going to get higher taxes, lower services, and I believe their property values are going to be impacted, because if the crime goes up and if services deteriorate, why would people want to move to Edgemont? So I hope that people in Edgemont are going to think very carefully before they make their decision.
Thank you, Paul, for coming on, and please come back. Don't forget to email us at profile.issue@yahoo.com. Again, that's profile, profile.issue, ISSUE, @yahoo.com. We want to have an interactive show with you, and we want to know your opinions and what you think. Check the credits at the end of the program. My guest has been Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. This is Dennis Rudin saying so long for Profiles and Issues.